So the next story that we will talk about, and I will ask you guys questions also about this, is how were the prisoners of war treated? So obviously the battle was over, the 70 prisoners were taken, it was decided to ransom them. So these prisoners were now taken back to Medina. All right. So this is an important lesson of the akhlaqiyat or the conduct of Muslims. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam gave the Sahaba specific instructions. Treat the prisoners of war kindly. So remember, any Muslim army which does not treat the prisoners of war kindly is not acting upon the hukam of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Okay, so it is a hukam from Rasulullah that whenever you have prisoners of war, you must treat them kindly. Okay. Now, there was a person who was a kafir, who was part of the army of the Quraysh. His name was Abu Aziz. Okay. Now, Abu Aziz, he says, and he was the brother of Musab ibn Umair. Okay. Now, Abu Aziz was fighting on the side of the Quraysh, and he was the brother. Okay? Now, Abu Aziz was the brother of Musab ibn Umair. Now, the brother is on the Muslim side, and the other brother is on the side of the Quraysh. That's how this battle was, right? And he says that I was with a group of Ansar bringing me from Badr. When they had their lunch and dinner, they gave me the bread and ate the dates themselves in accordance with the instructions given by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So what the Sahaba used to do, they would eat dates themselves and give the bread to the prisoners of war. Every piece of bread that came into the hands, they passed it on to me. I was embarrassed and would return the bread, but they would pass it back untouched. Bread was better food compared to dates. So between dates and bread was the better food, more wholesome food, the better quality food that is difficult to get. Dates you can keep in your pocket, you can store them, but bread needs to be fresh. So whenever the Sahaba they would have bread, they would give it to the prisoners. So they would sacrifice good food, but make sure that the prisoners are eating well, because this was the hukam of Rasulullah. So the Ansar would survive on dates and give the prisoners the bread, so they were treating them better than they were treating themselves. This was the quality of the Sahaba, that they were treating the prisoners of war better than they were treating themselves. Now, there's another story of Ibn Hisham who comments on this. He says, Abu Aziz was the standard bearer for the Mushrikeen at Badr. Subhanallah. Who was the standard bearer on the Muslim side? Musab ibn Umayyah. And his brother is the standard bearer on the side of the Quraysh. So both brothers, mashallah, have that quality. But one was on the Muslim side and one was on the Kafir side. One was on Haqq and the other was on Batil. So Abu Aziz wasn't just a foot soldier. Even when Rasulullah had told the Sahaba to treat such men well. So he was not just an ordinary soldier, Abu Aziz. He was one of the standard bearers. So Rasulullah made sure that he was taken care of. He was given the right protocol that he deserved. The izzat Rasulullah or the ikhlaq that they were giving. There were two other warriors from the side of the Quraysh, Abu Maz bin Rabia and Al-Walid bin Mughira. Okay. Abu Maz bin Rabia and Al-Walid bin Mughira said pretty much the same thing. They said the Muslims would walk whilst we mushrikeen would ride. Now, if you remember, there were just two horses and about 70 camels that the Muslims had, and each person used to take turns. So three people used to share one camel. Now, on the way back to Badr, they had additional prisoners of war. So they would give them preference over themselves. So prisoners of war, they would sit on the camels, and the Sahaba, they used to walk. Now, these are just the ikhlaq of Rasulullah and the Muslims. So the prisoners of war were riding while the Sahaba were walking. This good treatment was what caused many of the prisoners to actually become Muslim. So because of this ikhlaq, because of these good treatment, a lot of the prisoners of war, when they discovered the reality of Islam and Muslims, because of the Muslims' actions, remember that, because of the actions of the Muslims, they were so impressed that they started becoming Muslim. Okay. Throughout the battles of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, there are incidents of captives being taken, and then they would become Muslims and stay with the Muslims. So in the entire seerah, in the history of Islam, whenever prisoners of war were taken, they would end up becoming Muslims because of the akhlaq and the treatment of Muslims. Some of these reverts would go back to their people first and then go back to Rasulullah and become Muslim, just to show that they were not becoming Muslims out of fear of the sword. What does this mean? So while they were prisoners of war, in their heart changed. They wanted to become Muslim. But they didn't become Muslims as prisoners of war, because then other people would say, oh, they have just become Muslim because of fear. So they would wait to go back to Makkah, and then they would become Muslims and come back. So everybody knows that they have come back because of their own free will, not because of force or coercion. Okay, I'll come to questions in a bit. Abu Aziz continues, and about him we know his example. He became a Muslim after he saw how he was treated. So ikhlaq is most important, even with your enemy. The Muslim should treat their enemy with dignity. A Muslim is not cruel, wicked, or deceptive. So you always treat your opponents with dignity, with the right ikhlaq. A Muslim treats everybody with honesty, dignity, and straightforwardness, except those who deserve to be dealt with cruelty. You can't afford to treat them kindly. So this is the ikhlaq of the Muslims. Okay. So I'm going to pause here for a couple of points that I want to make, right? So, recording. Okay, so next we go to the story of Hazrat Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib, who was the uncle of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That's what you were asking about, right? So just remember that Hazrat Abbas came on the side of the Quraysh on the Battle of Badr. Okay, so he was still living in Makkah, and he had to come out with the Quraysh. Okay, so Al-Abbas ibn Abdul Muttalib anhu was the uncle of Rasulullah. Rasulullah asked him to ransom himself. So he was also taken as a prisoner of war by the Muslims. So this is an interesting one. He was taken as a prisoner of war, and Rasulullah said that you have to ransom yourself. What did Hazrat Abbas say? Hazrat Al-Abbas said, Ya Rasulullah, I'm a Muslim. Why should I ransom? I mean, he didn't say that, but he's like, I'm a Muslim, so why should I be ransoming myself, right? Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told him, what was evident was that you were against us on the day, and Allah knows best about your Islam. So what Rasulullah is saying is that you came on the enemy side, and only Allah knows about your Islam. Okay, so we don't know. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam here is setting a rule for us, okay, which is to go by what you see. So you can only judge by what you can see. We do not and cannot know what is in the hearts of men. Only Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the one who can see inside the heart. So what were the Muslims saying? The Muslims are saying that Al-Abbas anhu was fighting or coming out on the side of the Quraysh, even though he was claiming to be a Muslim. Okay. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was telling Abbas that Allah is the one who knows whether he's a Muslim or not. What the Muslims saw was that Al-Abbas was fighting against the Muslims. He was with the enemy, so they looked at that. Okay, they only looked at the fact that he was with the enemy, and therefore they judged him that he has to ransom himself. He is a valid prisoner of war. We cannot be sure about his Islam. Okay, and the rule is you can only judge by what you see. You don't know what is in the hearts of people. There's another story about Usama ibn Zayd raziyallahu anhu. He was fighting a non-Muslim, and just when he was about to kill the non-Muslim, the non-Muslim, he started reciting the kalima, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu wa rasuluh. And even after that, Hazrat Usama bin Zayd raziyallahu anhu killed him. And then this story reached Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam that this person, Hazrat Usama bin Zayd raziyallahu anhu, had executed this person even though he had accepted Islam. So he asked Usama bin Zayd raziyallahu anhu, and Usama bin Zayd raziyallahu anhu said that, Ya Rasulullah, he only recited the kalima out of fear, not to die. And then Rasulullah said that, did you cut up his heart and see what was inside his heart? How can you judge? This person was claiming and reciting kalima. You cannot kill him now. He's a Muslim. Whether he's a true Muslim or not, only Allah knows, right? But you have to go by what you see. What you see is somebody claims to be a Muslim. Okay. So then Umar bin Khattab, radiallahu anhu, when he became Khalifa, he said in the lifetime of Rasulullah, Wahi, yani ki revelation would come down and we would know what is in the hearts of Muslims. So, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send ayat. There's a whole surah on the of Surah al-Munafiqun, or the surah about the hypocrites. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala would send down the verses of the Quran and tell Rasulullah and the Muslims who's the real Muslim and who's the hypocrite Muslim. But after Rasulullah, there's no Quran coming anymore. So now you will only judge by what you see. Okay? But now we are going to make our judgment by what we see. If what appears from you is Islam, we will accept that. And if what appears from you is kufr, then we will assume that you are a disbeliever, even if you are claiming to be a Muslim. So it's a simple rule. After the Quran, you will judge people by what you see. If they are Muslim and they claim to be Muslim and their actions are Muslim, then Alhamdulillah. On the other hand, if they are claiming to be Muslims but they are doing all the actions of the non-Muslims, you can't trust their Islam. Okay? If your actions are those of a disbeliever, it doesn't benefit you if you say you're a Muslim. So if you are drinking, or if you're fighting against the Muslims, or you are going to churches or whatever, even if you say that I'm a Muslim in my heart, sorry, but we don't know. So this is a very important lesson. We should not judge people about what is in their hearts. We can judge them by their actions only. Okay. At the same time, don't allow people to fool you by claiming that they are something while their actions give evidence of the opposite. Okay. So words are judged by the actions that you do, right? So you might be saying, I'm a very good Muslim, but all your actions are bad. What's the point? Okay. So Al-Abbas anhu says, Ya Rasulullah, I don't have any money. How will I ransom myself? Okay. And Rasulullah said, what about the money that you have buried in the ground and your wife, Fazl, and you said to your wife that if I am killed, you take this money. So Rasulullah knows about a hidden treasure that Al-Abbas had hidden away somewhere. Whilst he's saying that I don't have money, Rasulullah says that you do have money. Okay. So Al-Abbas then says, Ashhadu Allah ilaha illallah wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan abduhu rasuluhu. He recites the kalima again and says, Ya Rasulullah, nobody else knew about this treasure except me and my wife. So he says that you are the true prophet of Allah because Allah told you about this treasure that nobody else knew. So it was one of the miracles. And because he saw this, Al-Abbas then recites the kalima again and becomes a true Muslim. Okay. Al-Abbas said, I paid 2 uqiyah of gold for my ransom, and then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave me much more than that. Meaning Allah had replaced that money that he paid for ransom. In fact, Allah multiplied it for Abbas radiallahu anhu. So Abbas radiallahu anhu says that even after I paid the ransom to free myself, Allah gave me so much barakat. I became even more richer than I was before. Okay. Okay, we have. All right, let's go back. Okay, now this is a very, very emotional story, right? And we'll do, I think, try and do most of it. This is the story of Abu al-As and Zainab Razila Ta'ala anhu. Okay. Abu al-As was the husband of Zainab bint Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Yani Zainab Razila Ta'ala anha was the daughter of Rasulullah. And Abu al-As was the husband of Hazrat Zainab Razila Ta'ala anhu. So the daughter of Rasulullah was married to a disbeliever, and this was before the ruling that Muslim women can marry non-Muslim men. So this was before that, right? So, and this was before you were preventing. So she was married to a person who was fighting the Muslims on the day of Badr. Okay, that is how it is. Now, just imagine how it is. In the previous example of Musa ibn Umair, he was fighting his own brother. And over here, Rasulullah is fighting his own son-in-law. So this was how tough Battle of Badr was. We keep learning about how Battle of Badr was Yawm al-Furqan, the significance of Battle of Badr. Not only was the Battle of Badr significant because 300 Muslims defeated 1,000 kuffar, it was also significant because brother was fighting brother. Father-in-law was fighting son-in-law. father was fighting the son. So their allegiances was not because of family anymore. That was one was fighting for La ilaha illallah and the other was fighting for the kuffar. Okay. So Zainab Raziyallahu anha was in Makkah and she wanted to free her husband, right? So obviously her husband is ransomed and she wanted to free him. Okay. So Zainab Raziyallahu anha sends an amount of money sufficient to release her husband from captivity. She also sends along with that money a necklace. Okay, so she wants to ransom her husband. So she sends money and she also sends a necklace that she has. Okay. This necklace was given to her as a gift by her mother Khatija Raziyallahu anha when she got married. Thus, this necklace was Zainab's wedding gift from her mother. That was the significance of this necklace. Okay. When the necklace falls into the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it brought back memories of his wife Khatija raziyallahu anha. This necklace touched his heart. Okay. Now, so when the necklace falls into the hands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, it brought back the memories of his wife Khatija. This necklace touched his heart, so he felt emotional about this necklace. Okay. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told the Ansar who was holding Al-As that if you should think fit to deliver her prisoner to her and return to her what is hers, then do so. Now Rasulullah is not commanding the Ansar. He's just suggesting to the Ansar that look, if you feel it's okay, then can you return the prisoner back to the person, yani ki Hazrat Zainab, and then return to her own gift, which was the necklace. Okay. Because now this is he has to ask the Ansar. Okay, just give me 1 second, guys. Okay, sorry guys, let me go back. So the Ansar, what did they do next? They immediately released Abu al-As without ransom and also sent back. Now remember the hukam of ransoming and the hukam of booty of war, right? So at the end of the day, the Ansar agreed to give this money back. Okay, and also return Abu al-As back to her husband, which was Sayyidina Zainab Raziyallahu anha. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam placed a condition, although. Okay, so before they released Abu al-As, he placed a condition, and that condition was that Abu al-As will never assist an enemy against the Muslims, and that he has to send Zainab to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So two conditions: Abu al-As will not fight against the Muslims again, and the other condition was that he has to send back the daughter of Rasulullah. Okay, so there were two conditions on this. We'll go ahead a little bit. Abu al-As was a man of his word. When he went back to Makkah, he allowed Zainab to leave Makkah and go to her father. Okay, so Abu al-As was an honorable man. He was a man of his word. He did not go back on his word. So now he's getting released. He say, oh yes, I accept everything, and then goes back and goes against his word. No, he was not like this. So remember, even the non-Muslims of that time were people who used to keep their promises. Okay, not like today. Even the Muslims are not keeping promises. Do you guys know the hadith where what are the three conditions of a munafiq? Just give me 1 second, okay? Okay, so the question that I was asking was, does anybody know the three conditions which signify that you are a munafiq rather than a Muslim? What are the three things? Does anybody know? What are those three things? Does anybody know? Go ahead, Shayan. So according to a hadith of the Prophet ﷺ, there are three things that makes a Muslim different from a munafiq. So when a munafiq says something, he tells a lie. They lie. Number two, when they promise something, they break their promise. Number three is amana. If you give them something to keep in trust, they do khiyana in that amana. So three things always remember. Ask yourself, Harun, Shayan, Musa, Hamza, All the girls, are you true Muslims or are you munafiqs? Do you tell the truth on all things? Remember something, truth is the most important thing of a Muslim. Not even small lies. I mean, just as a joke, even when we're doing a quiz, if you tell the wrong answer to your friend, that's a lie, guys. Okay? Small lies is how you start something. There's a narration of somebody who says that look, lying is like eating chicken, it's very yummy. And you start getting used to eating it. So please, at this age, tell yourself something. Forget about keeping a beard, wearing hijab. All these things come later. One thing, if you can just pick one thing, is tell the truth. Don't ever lie. Okay, that's the first thing. Number two, we make false promises. Oh yeah, yaar, I'll do it for you tomorrow. यार मैं कल कर लूंगा. आप किसी को वादा कर रहे हो, and you don't fulfill it. It's a sign of a munafiq. Small things, small things. And the third thing is somebody gave you something. Okay, Muaz, keep this for me. Muaz loses it, or Muaz eats it. Amanat mein khiyanat. These are the three things that make a munafiq. Always ask yourself, I am close to Islam or am I close to hypocrisy? All right. Now the lesson here is that Abul As was a man of his word. As soon as he went back, he kept his word and he let Sayyidina Zainab Raziyallahu anha go back. Okay. But the journey back was very difficult for Sayyidina Zainab. It was not easy. And this is something that we will inshallah learn next week, next Sirah lesson. But remember this Tarbiyah lesson, okay? I want you to go back and I have two projects for you guys, right? So